Here it is, the Connecticut budget and principles behind government budgeting. I'm Mark Stewart Greenstein, candidate for Connecticut governor. This is What Would Stewart Do? Big issue, and here I'll do it in two pieces, small and medium. I begin the small with what the function of government should be. And I believe that it's the permitted acts that government does best. I'll say that again. The permitted acts that government does best. I'm going to be a little presumptuous here, and I don't like being at all presumptuous, but I think there are some things that virtually all of us want that we can't control outside of some government. Example, I think all of us would like catastrophic insurance for things that would befall us that we can't help. I think almost all of us would like to see a form of husky health insurance for children. They can't help their health. For adults, not so, because we can help our health. Where's the dividing line? I don't know. That's for a General Assembly to decide. Although I do think the old-fashioned age 13 is a reasonable starting point where some kids, are mature enough to save for themselves, take care of themselves, eat for themselves the right way. At least that should be in play. So, let's go back to permitted functions. The Connecticut Constitution permits almost any activity. It requires funding for just two things, and they're both related to education. But as for permissiveness, it's very, very broad. So almost everything is permitted. Now, what does the state government do best? There's not very much, okay? I believe that government does best at the environmental protection level because we individuals aren't able to properly deter, properly bring suit against big polluters or out-of-state polluters. So you need a DEEP, and it's one of the areas that I would increase funding. The government probably does best at administering courts. The government definitely does best at administering to criminals and how they're going to get kept away. Beyond that, I'm not sure. Mental health is an area that probably should be within government auspices because there's a criminal protection element. If things go wrong with private protectors against mental health people who hurt others, then we've got problems that the state really should have been entrusted to protect again. So I want to start with the minimal. I want to roll this back about 80 years. And look, if over the next 80 years, more and more people think, here's some more government functions, fine. But I'm giving you an 80-year head start on freedom. More freedom is ensured with less government. Let me go now to the budget. The things that I would like to keep. I begin with the letter A. Agriculture Experiment Station. Mosquito control, wildlife disease prevention. And I'm going to stop there. It's not a big budget item, by the way. $500,000 for the first and less than $100,000 for the second. Not big, but really important because none of us can control against airborne diseases on mosquitoes that can cause huge damage to humans, even death. 100 years ago, 1918, this country experienced the Spanish influenza epidemic. It killed 600,000 Americans. And by the way, the population back then was about a third of what we have now. So percentage-wise, that's like losing 1.8 million Americans. At the same time, World War I was in full fiercedom, and we lost 114,000, okay? That's less than 1/15 the number we lost to the Spanish flu. If you could have prevented against that, life would have been incredibly better for those people 100 years ago. With a small cost, this agriculture experiment station is worth keeping. The rest? We should decide, but we should err on the side of Stark. So I have in my hands the budget, okay? What I would keep, and it saves about $4 billion. What I would jettison doesn't mean it doesn't get funded. It means it has a good chance of still getting funded privately. So we'll do that on the next video. I just want to say why private often is good and why a government imprimatur to steer private is great. It's because people still respect the government. Less so over the last few decades, but when the government says something is good, there is something extra that influences people. Now, I already have identified volunteers and people who are willing to do good work for a small stipend, okay? Will they do shoddy work? I doubt it. Take a look at the NRC in New Britain, at the volunteer of gardening in my town of Farmington, at animal control, volunteers as well, in Avon. These are people who are passionate about doing good work for the state that you don't have to put on a 40-hour work week, subject to all sorts of regulations and all sorts of costs and pensions, when a lot of good things get done without them, without the pensions and extra costs. Hey, let's make a contrast now. Is good work being done by state employees who sleep on the job? I've seen now one of them that deliberately goes to his car, has a colleague wake him up about an hour later. He's on the clock. I have heard about interns who are told to slow down their work because the pace deserves to be slower. I have been told about people taking, under state pay, time out to play cards. Okay? That doesn't happen in private practice. Doesn't happen in volunteer practices. Laggards get jettisoned. We need to adopt the private and the volunteer mentality to make the state activities better. So look, if you're seeing this now, share this video with a state employee. You're giving, or you're about to get, come January, February, a peer-to-peer review. Okay? You're also going to get a customer review. Connecticut citizens are customers of most state employees. Ladies and gentlemen, show it to them now, because they ought to step up if they've been among the slackers. If they've been really good, good. They're going to rise, maybe in salary, certainly in responsibility. And remember, I'm the one who'd like to see employees who know what they're doing and could run things better have that chance. Privately, they'll do better with fewer restrictions. I'm in your corner, primarily for the sake of all 3.6 million Connecticut residents, but yes, for the sake of state workers who will do better when the shackles come off and when permitted with a better culture to do well for all of us. Almost all of you are good workers who probably take pride in a good job. Jettison the ones who don't take pride, then you've got me in your corner. I'm Mark Stewart, candidate for governor starting in January 2019. The rest of the budget is next.